Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. This is Two Marine Dads Podcast, episode number 11. I'm Tyler,
I'm John.
and today we're going to talk about Biden and the new administration and a lot of the things that are changing and how money works. Kind of explain how actually awful it really is what he did, and even in just one day in office, which it's been more now, but the very first day, how many people's lives he has pretty potentially ruined. And I'm not even being exaggerative or over the top.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of jobs that have been canceled very recently, and
More coming,
you talk. Go ahead.
more coming, more cancellations
Yeah,
coming.
more
People that got
cancellations coming.
paychecks
So
on
there's
Friday, people that got paychecks on Friday that will not get one again. Period.
not on these jobs. So like the Keystone Pipeline's been canceled. You've got multiple border wall projects being canceled or put on hold, and those are just the ones that happened the most recently. Um, but looking at this objectively, I thought we'd start with, kind of just a quick review of how money works. Not, I know a lot of the guys, on my project are, the first time they had a 401k is the first time they've had, you know, a lot of different aspects like health insurance and stuff like that for a lot of them. A lot of them, this is the most money they've made in a long time, or the
Well,
most
not
money ever.
on
They've told
top of
me,
that, the lack
you
of
know,
understanding of how money works is it leads to a lot of people not understanding what's actually going on. Like it's just, free healthcare is just something we've got to pass a law for, and that's all it is. And that,
right,
we just tax people more money and it pays for it. And we can do that and
right,
we can afford that, or we just don't pay the military and we can afford to pay it. And that, big companies don't pay enough taxes. And like this whole
right,
idea that rich people just have giant piles of gold sitting in vaults that they swim around in like Scrooge McDuck, and that money just doesn't
right,
isn't being used. That rich people's money isn't doing something. So when
right.
you take that money away from people, rich people, you're taking that money away from whatever those rich people are doing with their money. And a lot of times it's municipal bonds, it's angel investors, it's
Yep.
ventures like SpaceX or Starlink, or people that are starting businesses up that go to get business loans. I mean, do you really think that the bank has $300,000 to loan you to buy a house? No.
No, no,
And
they're
part of
loaning
that's the
you our
Fed,
money.
and that's the way the Fed works and all that other stuff. But uh,
But
that
at its
complete lack of
core,
understanding of how money works leads people down these political decisions that are suicidal.
right, and they have no clue what's happening to them. And they wake up one day and they're like, "What happened?" So I mean, like at its core, you have a person, you or me, or some a rich person or a corporation, and they risk their own money. And by risking their own money, what that means is they have to, in order to start a business, they have to get a construction bond, or they got to get a bond. And what that means is you put your house up, you put your cars up, you put your savings accounts up, you put your kids, college funds up. So if you've got $1 million project you want to start, you got to go to the bank and they're going to go, what's real asset that you have
Right.
to for me to bond this? So and then all like your homestead, well, they can't come after my house. All that is waived in many cases. They can and will come take your house if you default. So like you are quite literally the person or the corporation is literally putting your personal assets, that person's personable assets at risk. So
Yeah, that's what you're
like
leveraging
when you say,
against.
oh, they're leveraging against everything you own down to the silverware in your drawer. Like everything is leveraged. You have they come in and they assess what they can give you and literally walk through your property and say, this is what we think it's worth. um so with that in mind, there is a tremendous personal risk for the person who's commencing the job. So that person, once he gets his business started, he wants or she wants it to become profitable. So it becomes profitable. That owner takes that money, starts getting a positive return called profit,
Yeah,
and
ROI.
that person wants to make more money. So they hire other people to expand their business and they create the job.
And they
Like the
scale.
government didn't create the job, they scale it, right? So they want to make more money. They want to take their money, their risk that they put everything into, and get more out of it.
And pay
So
more
then that
payroll
employee
tax
gets
and pay more
right,
taxes and pay more, money that's flowing through the economy because now you got more people making money.
correct. So if you hire a person you have to pay, the corporation pays half of that person's taxes that's owed to the government. So that's what the payroll tax is. So for every person my boss hires or your boss hires at home there, they pay half of your taxes. So when you look at your right column of your paycheck and you see these deductions and you want to puke, just know that the corporation's covering half of that bill. So it's actually double what's going to the government.
They're paying the
So
same
then
as you
if
are.
the they're paying
And it was
exactly
a
the same
shitty
as you
it
are,
was a
exactly.
shitty thing the government did so that when they raise taxes they can change.
Yep.
It's the payroll tax plan was made so specifically so the voters didn't see their taxes going up as much as it was, because
Right.
they can raise the taxes and you only see half of it because the employer has
You
to pay
only
the
see
other
half of
half.
it.
And
So when when like the Donald Trump cuts came through, and that was the main thing that he did was, the corporate tax rate. There was a bunch of things he did, but one of them was he lowered the payroll tax.
yep.
That meant the employee, the employer could hire more employees and didn't have to pay as much. So that means they took a burden off of the corporation. Therefore, the corporation could hire more people, expand more money, expand the money, and get more people working for them. So it did it kind of, and in the same time, he closed a bunch of loopholes like mileage was closed, moving deductions for moving, et cetera, for especially in our business where, being a construction worker, we bounce all over the country. So that I really got affected by that one. But again, you get to hire more people. And then what that is if there's more people working at a slightly lower rate, the government gets a return on that money. So if the government has more people working, their coffers get filled faster, even though it's a lower tax rate. So understanding, like, guys, that's how the money flows. Like, it flows from a person who risks everything. It comes down to you. They take half of your tax burden, and then you go out and you spend that money how you want, you know? So that's like at its core, that is how like basic money works, guys.
Well, and on top
And
of that, the one thing that is it's not like when you tax money, it's efficient, right? The government is insanely inefficient with the money it takes. So you're taking money from a relatively efficient operation, and if not an insanely efficient operation, it depends on each business. You're taking money from that organization that is efficient with its dollars and putting it in an organization that is not efficient, that wastes an enormous amount of money. And
oh, yeah,
not because it fucking pays for a study for shrimp to run on treadmills. I mean, that's a waste of money, but also because of the many layers of bureaucracy the money has to flow through before it even does anything. So
right,
you've got to pay 10 people salaries on the government side that 2 people would do on the private side, and
correct.
because of the way the systems are built. So it is a horrible waste of dollars right now
Correct.
with the way we have taxpayer dollars are. So
So
by raising the taxes to get more money to feed the bureaucracy, you're actually double hurting, because not only are you taking money away from efficient organizations, the place you're putting that money does less with the money than this organization did. And you can get all upset if you want because a rich person buys a nice car or has a private jet. But to build that jet was jobs. There's a lot of people that are paid to build that jet, to
right.
test that jet, to fly that jet. There are people that are paid to build nice cars. Those provide jobs for people. And that is how the
Yep.
money system works. And
Yep.
rich people don't sit on a bunch of cash. It's not like they have all this money you can just take from them. So if
Correct.
when people that are well off make a bunch of money, they make their money work for them. They invest in other businesses. They invest in the stock market. They invest in municipal bonds. They invest in half in government bonds. There's a lot of stuff that they put their money into that if they don't have their money, they can't put it into those systems. So those systems suffer downstream of tax raises. And that's what a lot of people
Correct.
don't ever talk about is the money you're taking away by raising taxes. What was that money doing before that now that it can't?
Right. Exactly. So, you know, and to build on what you were saying there, what was it in Independence Day? They were like, you don't really think they spend $20 on a hammer and $80 on a toilet seat. Well, that is a fact. I mean, they do, and the
It's a
reason why they
joke,
do is
but
because
yes.
it's a joke, but it's the truth. Like when the government comes in and they say, "Hey, I got these markers here," and normally you could go out and buy them in a pack of 12, but they decide they want them in a pack of six. And then that raises the cost of packaging, and then they're like, okay, each individual one needs to be wrapped within that, and so on and so forth. I mean, they change the rules, and they don't understand what the impact is because they don't have to. Whereas in a private sector, you would say, hey, can you just dump these into a bag and weigh them for me, and I can just round the the difference off, and I want to buy 1,000 of these. You know what I
How do
mean?
I
But
get it
put it in one
cheaper?
box.
How
Right,
do I get it cheaper? Not how do I get it to
right,
fit myself better?
right. So, but in the government, you can't do that because of the bureaucracy. The moment you do that, it's looked on upon as as wrongful appropriation or something, like
Well,
someone's trying to do something
especially
wrong.
because the
You
person
know,
that owns the company that wraps the markers individually is usually the son of a congressman.
right? This is the other half too, where nepotism comes into play. So, getting back to like how the money works, but they literally do spend $20 on a pencil and $80 on a toilet seat because of that. So, when you look at it in terms of how that plays out on the macro scale, not necessarily the micro scale here, but on the macroeconomical scale, which is like, guys, when you say macro, you mean like the whole country. And when you say micro, you're talking about a business. So there's the difference in those two words for you when you hear it on the news. Um, so like when you're talking about like um, our tax rate in the United States, where do you want to put your money? Do you want to put your money in a bank, or do you want to put your money out in the center console of your truck? I mean, that therein lies the difference on your scale, on our scale. For me personally, a bank is more secure. The United States is more secure than, say, Indonesia or say China or say, I don't know, the Middle East or something like this. So where do you want to park your money? If you're a company and you want to insource into the United States, you want the United States because we're a more secure country. We have a bigger military. Someone's not going to march in and steal your money out of the bank. So if you lower that the tax rate, other countries want to invest here in the United States, and that puts more Americans back to work.
I mean, I want to kind
So
of go back
another
there.
benefit of not
There are people that are going to march into the bank and take your money, and it's called the politicians in New Jersey to that guy. That's what they did. But
this is the truth. It's
I'm
the
just
truth.
poking the bear. I'm just poking the bear.
But it's the truth though. So when the other thing, guys, to kind of keep straight in your head too is the deficit. So I mean, there's a big difference between the budget deficit, like ramming this $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill down our throats, and say the trade deficit or our national deficit. So when you're talking about the national deficit, everyone freaks out and loses their minds, and rightfully so. The numbers are gigantic. But when you look at it in terms of what that means, so Tyler, if you are in China and you're building bicycles, and I'm here in the United States and I want to buy a bicycle from you, I have to pay you in American currency. I only have dollars. I don't have renminbi. Is that how you say it? Renminbi? Whatever that is, the currency over there in China. So I thought it was yuan for a while, and I looked it up, and I think it's renminbi. But so I pay you in dollars, and then you send me the bicycle.
I'm
I
pretty
ordered
sure
it
it's
on
Juan.
Amazon. You mail it to me, huh?
Pretty sure it's Juan, dude.
Is it yuan?
Pretty sure.
Okay, maybe I have it wrong. So if it's yuan, I pay you in dollars. What are you
Right.
supposed to buy in China with a US dollar? You can't. But you send me my bicycle because I ordered it on Amazon and it came. So you take that money and you go to the Central Bank of China and you exchange it from yuan to
From dollars to Juan.
from US currency to your currency. What's the National Bank of China supposed to do with that dollar other than invest it back into America? And when they take that dollar and they invest it in this form of treasury bonds, or they come over here and they buy real estate, or they buy a corporation, or they invest in municipal bonds and build roads or whatever, so they can get a return on that money. But guess
Or
what?
or
When they get
or
the return, it's in U.S. currency.
or
So,
invest in a certain senator's son, maybe.
okay. So there are other less appropriate ways to put the money. So yeah, there's some of that. Um, so when you look at it in terms of that, guys, like this debt, oh well, China holds so much of our debt. Yeah, that's a good thing. They are investing back in America,
It's
and
not
guess what?
inherent. Them
You know
owning
how
the
many
debt isn't
products?
inherently a bad thing. It's not inherently a good thing, but it's not a
It's not.
bad thing either. It's just business.
It's
It's how the
it's a
world works.
product of free trade, right? It's a product of free trade. So it's not the end of the world. Like, oh my God, what happens if they call their debt? They won't, because there's something called hyperinflation,
They couldn't.
inflation that happens
It would
if you
kill.
do that.
It would hurt them just as bad to call
Right.
the debt as it would hurt us. They are too
Right.
dependent on us. We are too dependent on them. That's
Yep.
why I don't think we're ever going to go to war. We're never going to
Nope.
fight each other because we have this symbiotic relationship where we can't survive without one another. Am I happy about that? No. Because we have a bunch of money that we're basically paying to feed the fucking communist nation of China that, rounds up Muslims and puts them in re-education camps.
Yeah, the Germans would call them concentration camps, but we'll call them re-education camps because it's
I'm
nicer.
I'm just using the Chinese term for it. But
So
we're funding, and I don't like that. But there's not anything we can do about it right now. We're that whole idea of Jack Sparrow said there's what a man can do and what a man can't do.
yeah,
We could choose to stop doing business with China, but we can't survive without China.
it's the truth.
There's
Everything is made there,
too
and
much manufacturing. And we've made pretty
yep,
big leaps. And a lot of the stuff the Trump administration did with steel was actually pushing to where we weren't so dependent on them. I have no faith that the Biden administration is going to continue that because I'm personally, I feel like Biden's bought off by the Chinese. He's going to help everybody was like Russia, Trump, inside agent. I don't think Biden's a Manchurian candidate, but he's going to do shit to help China out because that's going to pay his family off for the next fucking 2 generations.
right, right. He's going to put us back into this globalist economy, and which it is what it is. We are a part of it, like it or not. And but yeah, we are definitely not America first. That has gone out the window right now. You know, so
Oh
like,
yeah, I mean with the Paris Climate Accords and the Iran
oh, yeah.
peace deal and the, I mean the Iran peace deal was so bad, and Biden headed that thing up. It was him and Kerry. That was their whole fucking show. The Iran peace deal was so bad that it caused peace to break out between Israel and all the other fucking Middle Eastern countries that hate Iran. That's how bad the deal was. It made countries that hate each other like each other. I mean that's a hell of a statement. That's a hell
For
of a
their own
fucking
security, yeah.
right because
These are the same
they're
people who
scared
hated
of
each
fucking
other 40
Iran now.
years earlier. Yeah, exactly. So
And
now
everybody
we're
talks
opening
about
up.
the support that Germany and the UK have for the Iran peace deal. Well, yeah, they have a ton of support for it because they're going to make a fuckload of money out of it. That's the only reason they're interested is all the foreign investment they can dump into Iran if Iran normalizes, which it never will. Not with the people that are in charge now.
No, and I'll say this: that the Israelis, you do not fuck with the Israelis. I mean, they killed like another. Like this was last month or the month before last. They killed another physicist
Did you
with a
read this?
motorcycle and a magnetic bomb.
No. That's an old one, dude. That's an old one. The way they killed this last scientist? Did you read how they did that?
I guess I got it backwards.
It
I thought
was
that was the one where he
no.
stuck the magnet and
That happened
rode off.
like 10 years ago, I think. Maybe not 10, but it was quite a while ago.
Oh wow, yeah, that was the first
The
one they
one that
killed.
they just killed like fucking a month ago or whatever it was, a couple weeks ago. It was literally a automated robotic machine gun in a car that was controlled by AI and was able to sort out between him and his girlfriend. Like this is Terminator shit, dude.
I was gonna say, as awesome as that sounds, that is so scary. You know,
Satellite something about being
dun, dun,
satellite
dun, dun.
something about being satellite controlled, and it's like, is this fucking Mission Impossible? What is this?
Haven't these people seen the Terminator?
All I'm thinking of is like Jackal, that the Jackal
Yeah,
Bruce Willis movie where he's got the little remote gun, and there's one in what was it in Shooter? Uh,
yeah, shooter. Yeah, he
you're,
kills Jack Black.
yep.
Bruce Willis was not a nice person.
He was not in that one, not at all.
You know, he posed as a gay guy, killed the gay guy, and then he ended up killing the freaking Jack Black. I mean, he's killing people right, left, and center. It wasn't good.
But
But
all of these stuff that we were talking about Biden not putting America first, and it to me it doesn't it's not like Biden hates America. I don't think that's what it is. It's politics, right? To these people it's just pure politics. What plays well in the media, what plays well to their fucking rabid bases, and that works on the left and the right. I mean, Trump's an example. I mean, look at what happened in Washington on 6th. The rabid
right,
base is getting those to support you and push your agendas, and now they're out of control, and now they can't say no to them. So we're re-signing the Paris Climate Accord. He rejoined that with an executive order when literally it does nothing but hurt us. Even if you achieve the goals in the Paris Climate Accord, they say it doesn't do enough to stop what they believe is global warming. Like it's like,
right.
okay, we're going to do all this. We're literally going to destroy the economies of the Western world, but it's not actually going to do anything because China and India don't really have to go along with it, and they're actually polluting like 80% anyways. And on top of that,
Yeah,
and this is even before the coronavirus hit. This was in all the way through 19, ignoring 2020, all the way through 2018 and 2019. The United States actually reduced its carbon emission while growing the economy more after we
right.
pulled out of the Paris Climate Accords. And all in the last 5 years, all the other countries that have been in the Paris Climate Accords, none of them have met their emission goals. So
Right.
re-signing the Paris Climate Accord is just political statement. It's a thumb in the eye of Trump. Hey, look, I'm undoing Trump's stuff. That's all he's doing left and right. That's what the Keystone Pipeline is. That's what undoing the border wall is. There is no stopping the Keystone Pipeline does not stop the oil, and that's what a lot of people think that we're going to stop the Keystone Pipeline. It's going to stop the oil. Doesn't. It just comes on trains now.
No. Yep.
You know, those trains labeled BNSF that are paid for by what's his face, Warren Buffett. You know, the giant Democratic donor. Yeah.
Warren Buffett owns Berkshire Hathaway, and guess what the B in BNSF stands for?
Berkshire.
So exactly. So it's not
actually no. It's Burlington Northern Santa Fe. That's what
Burlington.
It's not Berkshire, but he owns BNSF. Berkshire Hathaway owns BNSF, and he was one of the most. He's been one of the most vocal, if you will, behind the scenes about not building the Keystone Pipeline because it hurts the train industry. And it will. But it's not like the Keystone Pipeline. I don't know if you've ever seen the maps of the pipes that run around the United States. It looks like a goddamn spider web, dude, or a bowl of spaghetti. Looks like a bowl of spaghetti is a better way of putting it. There are fucking pipes everywhere. This is not new. This is not groundbreaking. And everybody's like, oh, it's going to ruin the drinking water. Have you ever seen what happens when a train derails? And it happens quite a lot. It happens a lot.
Yeah, pipelines are relatively safe.
Way safer than trains.
Safe.
Their accident rates are
very safe.
Are 100th of what a train is.
Right, and if a pipeline ruptures or something, it's very, very quickly localized. The valves are shut. You can clean it up very, very quickly.
And there's a small volume, a very small volume that gets spilled compared to a train.
Right. Correct. And I mean, unless something catastrophic happens, I don't know, a tremendous earthquake, but these things are designed for seismic activity. Yeah. These things are designed for safety. So it's there. I mean, designed not to rust, and there's a whole bunch of stuff we can get into that why they're better. But yeah, I mean,
and it's also not going to stop the oil. You know, this is all the oil sands oil, right? They're shipping it to Houston where it gets refined or shipped out of Houston, which means we get to pay all the revenue out of that, right? All the taxes, all the shit that comes, all the jobs that come of that process. All Canada's going to do. But all Canada's going to do if they can't build the Keystone Pipeline is they're going to build one to the fucking Pacific Ocean in Canada and pump it out of Canada, which means these environmentalists are not accomplishing anything but hurting
making
us.
It worse.
They're hurting
making
us.
It worse.
They're costing us the money. The oil's going to go. You're not going to stop the oil. It's not going to happen.
Correct.
Canada's already started the process of building a pipeline that way.
Right, because it is bullcrap.
And because they don't like. I mean, I don't know with Trudeau and what's going to happen there. That guy's so fucking corrupt. You can't even anything he says you can't trust anyways. But the destruction of the Keystone Pipeline does not accomplish anything other than destroying jobs and destroying future revenue and future jobs. And it's the same thing with the border wall, right? Canceling the border wall projects like they did. All you're doing is stopping the jobs that we're doing there and hurting the Border Patrol agents that have been nothing but grateful. And I'm not talking about this in a second hand, and neither of you. I have spoken to the border agents. I've been to the border. I've talked with these guys, and when they found out that they were going to get a border wall in a place that's never had one, like there's a barrier there, but it's a barbed wire fence in some places. That was put up on the Mexican side by the Mexican farmers to keep their cattle from walking into the United States. That's the only barrier that exists. And the only step above that is Normandy barriers.
Normandy barriers, yeah.
That keep vehicles out. But the cartels are smart enough, they just fucking cut them up. They make them out of fucking PVC so they look like they're metal, and you can't see them driving by. And then when nobody's around, 3 dudes come up and pick up this thing, and off they drive, and they just put it back, and nobody ever knows. I mean, they had some of the
5 or 6 guys who moved the metal ones.
Yeah, and they had some of these things. I remember the Border Patrol showed me some of the pictures of some of the old like landing mat fence where on the Mexican side they literally rigged up like garage door openers and shit and cut it out, and when nobody's watching they can hit a button and the fucking fence just opens up like Transformers and they can drive right through and it closes back and none's the wiser, and there's a fucking car barreling.
Yeah, no joke. And the other thing too is on the landing mat ones, you couldn't see who's on the other side. Right. So critters couldn't get through. Some of the smaller critters couldn't get through. But for the CBP, they want to be able to see who's on the other side. You couldn't visually see through the thing.
Which is why they didn't go with the big concrete barriers that were harder to penetrate. Like everybody's like they're just cutting through the fence. It's like it slows them down. You guys don't understand. Trump went with this wall because that's what the CBP wanted. He gave them the choice of all these designs, and they said we want the bollard fence. It works the best because we can see.
He did have a pretty cool display. He brought all these like professional climbers and grapplers and stuff, guys like who rock climbing to try to do it, and he made a spectacle of it. But that at the end of the day, this is the better option. It's more cost effective, it's faster, and you can see through the damn thing. You know, rock
The
climbers be damned. But
and the idea that stopping the border fence makes us safer, or it like anybody who's listening to us right now that isn't like pro border fence or is like against the border wall, right? You have two guys here who have been there and talked about it and aren't on a political bent. We're not the media making up some magical story about how the fence doesn't work, or a politician who's trying to appease a rabid fucking base that thinks there should be no borders. The same
right.
people that say there should be no borders are the ones that slapped up borders in Chaz when they fucking put it up. That was the very first thing they did is they put up concrete barriers on the fucking street to make their little fucking autonomous zone in fucking Seattle. And I think there's
Yep.
one in Portland now.
Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, and then they changed it to I think Capitol Hill
It was Chaz, and then I don't know who cares,
something
dude.
protest.
But at the
Capitol
end,
Hill something protest, whatever.
and
It
then at
was.
the same thing, these politicians that do this give $500 million, or was it 50, whatever it was, to fucking Jordan to build a fucking border wall.
Right. So I
Um,
mean, like barriers do work, and I mean, and again, like guys, when you go down to Mexico, again, I know I think I said this on the previous podcast. There's an actual line of people, and it's actually 300 feet long, and they actually stay there, and they actually wait for their turn to get called in by INS, to actually come into this country legally.
and
So
do
when
the
you have people that
paperwork.
just walk around the end, do an end, literally and figuratively do an end run around the system, um, you're slapping those people in the face. I mean, you're slapping everybody who did it right before, and then you're slapping
You're
my
making a
relatives in
mockery.
the
You're making
face.
a mockery of the whole
Yeah,
system.
you're making a mockery of it, right?
And on
So
the
I
end,
mean,
at the
like
end of the
guys,
day, I might be. This might be tinfoil hat kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's intentional because Democrats know these people are going to vote for them. They know that these people are. They know that these people are going to vote Democrat, or at least a majority of them are, so that they can maintain power. That's why I mean, one of the other executive orders Biden signed was to make sure that the census now counts illegal aliens, that they're illegal aliens and non-documented immigrants or whatever fucking PC word you want to use. Those people get counted in the census now, so that California doesn't lose a representative, because everybody, so many people are leaving the blue states that they're actually gonna lose representation.
yeah.
New York and California, because people have had a fuck enough, dude. Had enough.
When have we seen this in history before? You and I like to go back and forth, guys, about the. If you don't know this, Tyler and I go back and forth about the American Civil War and all kinds of stuff about it. But yeah, this sounds familiar. I wonder if they're going to come up with a three-fifths compromise on this.
Right.
No, probably not.
No.
So representation is a big deal in Washington, and that's exactly why they're doing it. But I mean, and the other half of it is you should know how many people are. I mean, there's other things of knowing that. Okay, there's 11 million illegal people here, and they're not all from Mexico. They're
Yeah,
from other
maybe,
countries
maybe there
too.
might be
And
fucking 20. They have
you
no
know,
idea, dude. There might be 20 or
right, they
30
have no
people,
idea,
20,
and the
30
only way you're
million.
going to wrap your arms around it is to at least they don't slam the door in front of the faces of the census takers. But so I mean, there is something to be said about doing that and understanding what the scope of the problem is, and I have to confirm this, but they also said that they gave an amnesty window for 11 million people as well.
Biden said
Um,
that he was going to, for the
yeah,
first
I
100
haven't
days,
seen it.
not deport people. But what
Right,
they've come out and clarified and said what he meant was people that are already here. They're not going to let
right,
people.
right,
Supposedly, they're not going to let people across the border, but they're not going to
right.
stop them from crossing either.
And
They've also what was the other one they were talking about? It's hard to, dude. The people that are already there talking is such a fucking joke. The girl that's the press secretary now, she was a masterful. All she did was lie, lie, lie. She lied like crazy. And now we sound like the people talking about the fucking Trump's administration now, but
yeah,
she was. They talk about we're going to be honest and transparency, and then they bring somebody that was the spokesman for the State Department during the Obama administration that did nothing but lie the entire time. She was right there with fucking what's her face, that stupid bitch that lied about Benghazi and all the morning news shows. Um, Susan Rice, not Susan Rice. Was it Susan Rice? Yeah, Susan Rice.
Susan, yeah,
And I can call her a bitch all she want because she's called me a lot of awful names by association, because I'm a Trump supporter or I'm a fucking rabid white person or whatever she wanted to call me. All the horrible names
yeah.
she said. She's a bitch. Screw her.
But I mean, yeah, I think I posted this on Facebook at one point. And I was like, I went to bed a patriot, a former Marine, somebody who loves everybody in his country, and I woke up a white supremacist and um,
Insurrectionist,
an insurrectionist and a racist all at the same
loyalist,
time.
a
And I'm like,
loyalist.
a Trump loyalist. I'm like, come on, because I'm a libertarian. If I vote libertarian, I'm tossing that vote away. So yeah, I went with the more conservative of the two. It doesn't make me a Trump loyalist. It doesn't. I don't even like the guy, but I like his policies, and I don't can't say I dislike. I don't have any reason not to like President Biden, but I do have a problem with many of his policies. They
Well,
do not make sense for
the
for
shitty
for
thing is
America.
the
You
policies are
know,
just political statements, dude. I mean,
right,
back to that. It's like the whole thing with the Muslim ban, as the media called it, where you had extreme vetting from countries. That's gone. And
yeah,
these are countries that can't even tell you who the people. There's no way
right.
to.
They
There's no
don't
birth
know.
certificates. There's no social securities.
Right,
That guy could say, "My name is Joe Bob Jimbo," and you have no way of knowing that his name's not that. You have no idea who this person is. It could be the most awful, horrible terrorist on the planet that's pretending to be a happy father of three, and when he gets here, he straps a bomb to himself and runs into an elementary school.
right.
That
And
was
you
the
don't know that.
reason. That was the reason for the extreme vetting is in these countries, and it's not a coincidence that these countries are also Muslim countries. It's because most of the Muslim countries in this fucking planet right now are a giant shit show because of the revolution that the Obama administration and the Clintons started.
Right,
These countries are in
right.
fucking tatters. There's only a fucking handful of them that are even somewhat semblances of civilized governments. You got places like Lebanon and Syria and Jordan, and I mean the list goes on, dude. Yemen, all these places that are a complete fucking train wreck right now, and there's no way to prove people who they are. So you shouldn't let them in your goddamn country. It's not racist. It's because I can't tell you who they were. If there was a white Anglo-Saxon country that had the same problems, I would say, yeah,
Same
no,
thing. Same thing.
no.
Right.
You're not letting
And there was
people in
only
that you don't know who
seven.
they are. In this day and
There were only
age,
7 countries on that list. That was it. There was a Muslim ban. I mean, it's so ridiculous when you hear
so,
him
and
talk
that's the
like
only
that.
reason they're pulling that restriction, that extreme vetting process. They're removing that because they're like, well, it's racist. It's like it's not racist. You're saying it was racist to attack Trump, but now because you said that for 4 fucking years, everybody thinks it's a fact and that it's racist when it isn't. So now you have to pull the plan back because you've called it racist because you were attacking. The only reason you called it racist was to attack the guy who instituted it, and you have that thing with the um uh that it's the same thing with the border wall. The border wall is racist. It's the same thing with the Paris Climate Accord. You're a science denier. You have, and then the Iran nuclear deal. All of these things that the media attacked Trump for built these either straw man arguments or giant clouds of smoke to obscure the info or the actual
In nebulous,
reason for it.
nebulous terms. Yeah.
And now the administration is left with no option but to cancel these things. And I mean, he had he's done more, but the first day he had like 17 executive orders he signed, and none of them put America first. None of them were
Oh,
for the benefit of the United States. They were the benefit for illegal aliens in other countries, or people seeking asylum from terrorist-ridden countries, or China. Like the biggest winner in the Paris Climate Accord is China, because it forces everybody to go to solar power and wind power. And you know who is the market leader and manufacturer of solar and wind power? China.
right.
They make everything.
And again, I like the idea of moving into a cleaner thing. I like clean water. I like cleaner. I think PV cells photovoltaic cells or solar is a good thing. But build that infrastructure first,
Don't you
and
live
then
in
make a
Don't you live in
transition.
California right now?
You know, huh?
Don't
Yeah.
you don't you remember? About a year
Rolling
ago.
brownouts.
Yeah, that why that was because they're following the fucking rules of the Paris Climate Accord without
Well,
any real answer.
they capped like it was a market cap on how much you could charge per kilowatt hour, and then they were like, well, we can't do it for this
Well,
price, and
they
they
also
started
don't
doing
have
rolling
anywhere to.
brownouts.
They also have no way to
No,
generate the power they need because they say you
no,
can't generate it.
okay. And that's why you have so many wind farms out here. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm saying build that infrastructure first and then segue out of it. I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, you can't argue that polluting less is a bad thing. It's
No,
not. Go do it
but you can argue that the
first.
systems that you
You know,
want to make us not pollute more don't work, and
they don't work, right?
building
No,
more of
go
them
build it and make it work, and then
building
transition.
building more of
Right.
them isn't the solution. There's systemic
No,
issues with
fixing it.
wind and solar. Systemic issues. They are
Right.
a supplemental power source. They are not a primary power source. And until we
Right.
find a way to make miniature suns on the planet and have fusion generation, or solar panels on the fucking orbiting the planet that beam energy back down, real Star Trek sci-fi shit. We're going to be stuck with fossil fuels, period. You
Right.
have to.
Right.
You cannot meet the
The,
energy needs of this planet without them right now.
no. This is the equation. What can you put in this glass right now that can move 1,000 pounds, 1,000 feet? That's the solution you have. You come up with that answer, and you're going to have a statue built taller than the Statue of Liberty. And don't say petroleum, because that's the solution we have right now. But um, Biden killed 11,000 U.S. jobs direct. Okay, and when you say direct or versus indirect, 11,000 U.S. jobs on the Keystone Pipeline are done, and they estimate 1,000 in Canada, which would affect another 48 or 49,000 that of supporting that.
Well, yeah,
The
it's the
locals.
11,000
And,
direct jobs and then like 50 or 60,000 indirect jobs.
yeah, indirects. So there's a tremendous lot of people who are taking a pay cut or going home without a paycheck. So I mean, it's not idle gossip. This does have an impact on a tremendous amount of people.
And
You know,
don't
they
you
were
don't
saying
you
that the
love how the
border wall.
media don't you love how the media like tries to fucking pretty it up and say, well, those were just temporary jobs anyways.
Right.
Motherfucker, all construction is temporary.
Oh,
All construction is a temporary job, you dumb shit. Doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. It might be it might
it's
be a
a
2-year temporary job, but it's still a temporary job.
right.
It's how it's
There's
categorized.
right, and there's a lot of very talented people who can get into this and work their way up through it and not necessarily need a 4-year degree from a college like this. If you work hard in the construction industry and you have a brain, but you don't necessarily have the education, you can be tremendously successful and not necessarily be the business owner. Like these
To
are
this
high paying
day,
jobs.
construction is one of the best ways to make money in this country, period.
Yeah,
And it probably is everywhere.
correct. Right, and that's the immigrant, and that's the guy who's fifth generation American. It doesn't matter. Like as long as you work hard in the construction
A,
industry,
a,
and
a fucking convicted felon who's out of prison, that
right,
where do you think most of
yep,
them end up? They end up in construction.
construction, yep,
That's their second lease at life. Actually
yeah.
trying to be
I mean,
good for society. Because,
right,
you're
and
not
produce.
they can't get a job at a bank. The law doesn't let them go work anywhere near money. So all of
Right,
these guys that have no other way in life, the best place for them to land is construction, which ends up really good for them most of the time
yeah.
because it's structured, it pays well, and it keeps them too goddamn busy to get in trouble again.
A lot of times, right? I mean, you got your shit bags everywhere, but it does. It's a tremendous opportunity and allows them a true second lease on life, where they come in and they're like, "Wow, I made more money in a week than I did by stealing it from the liquor store." You know what I mean? And it was legal. you know? So I mean, it opens their eyes to like what is out there. And a lot of these guys that I don't say a lot of them, some of them have never had jobs like this, and you're making great wages. They never had 401ks. Half of them don't even know what an HSA is. And I feel good to be able to explain to these guys what it is. But they're like, John, I got $40,000 in my 401k, and I'm like, I whip out my calculator and show them what that's going to be like in 20 years when they retire, and their eyes get huge when they see those numbers. I'm like, do not count on that money, leave it alone. So anyway, it's showing these guys how money works, because some of them haven't. Some of them have more money than me, a lot more money than me.
And none of
But
that's the fucking greatness of the public education system. Unfortunately, we
they
teach
don't
kids
teach money.
we teach kids how to, and I'm not saying we don't teach them who the third president of the French Revolution was or whatever the fuck it was, the who King George the Third, or Queen Elizabeth's fucking mistress, or I'm just spouting dumb shit right now. But at the end of the day, yeah, learn history. But the fact that you leave high school 18 years old and you don't know how to pay taxes, you don't know how you don't understand how investing works, you probably don't. Maybe, I don't know. You might not know how the three branches of government work, and your biggest concern is what college you're going to get into, not even knowing what you want to do with for the rest of your life. So that
Right.
setup that we've put people up is
Yeah.
sad.
They don't. The money flow doesn't know. And I had to go to college. I had a very good professor who taught us that. It was like, this is how it goes. Like, this is how your money works. This is why, corporations make money. Blah blah blah. Like, he took it through. Took us through how it all worked. And after he did, it made perfect sense. But it took a guy doing that to open my eyes to show me. You know.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's not like starting businesses is just a zero sum game that you start a business and you make money right away. I've been grinding for almost a year now, and I'm $70,000 or so in the hole. We're gonna start crawling out of it, but that's the process. It's not like I'm making fucking. I might make a bunch of money next month, but it doesn't matter because I'm still 70,000 in the hole from all the investment that I've put in to start everything else.
But the people who are gonna judge you are the ones that go, oh look, he's making $3,000 a week, or he's making, and never saw the
All
effort,
everything that
never
led up to
saw
that.
the costs,
Mm-hmm.
never saw the fact that you didn't go out and buy your kids brand new shit, or you didn't get your wife something nice or whatever. They didn't see those
If it
sacrifices,
was easy to get rich, everybody would be rich. It's not. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of effort. There's a lot
Okay.
of failure. There's a lot of trial and error,
Right.
and there's a lot of failure and continual
Right.
failure before success. I mean, unless you're like the guy in
Guys,
Michigan, the
like,
person in Michigan who fucking got that $1 billion lottery ticket. Money doesn't come easy.
that was me. I went to Michigan, went to Albertsons,
No, it's not, because you wouldn't be sitting in that room or talking to me right now if it was. I can
I'd have a
promise
much
you
nicer
that.
camera. Um, No, I like my camera. It was a Christmas gift and it's awesome. Um, but no, like, guys, and this is not idle gossip. Like, I went back today and I pulled I did a little homework on exactly what the gasoline tax is. So, guys, for for reference, you pay taxes to get something back from the government. That would be national security. That'll be a safety net, social security, stuff like this. So when you look at the gasoline tax and they're like, well, this is for infrastructure. Well, I don't know what the rest of my money went to. Um, right now, 18.4 cents per gallon is what we charge in gasoline tax. What did the government do to help you do that? Nothing. Did they help pay for the drills? No. Did they help, research where the oil fields were? No. Did they help develop the technology? No. In fact, they've done the opposite and tried to stop all that. Yet they charge 18.4 cents per gallon, and now they're saying that's not enough. They want to initiate another 10 cent per gallon plus another 10 cents over the next 10 years. So effectively add 20 cents more per gallon. So you're talking 44.4 cents per gallon is what they're going to charge you, and then they complain that they don't have enough money, and it's worse for diesel.
Right.
Diesel is like, is higher because they consider that a work fuel. So therefore they want to charge the big rigs more. And guess what? If a trucker has to pay more at the pump, he's going to charge you more for the goods he's traveling,
Has to.
or she's traveling.
Has to.
Yeah, it has to. He doesn't just absorb that. So when they go, oh, higher
He
taxes
can't
only
op-
affect
he can't
people
lose
making
money and
500.
operate.
Right. You cannot lose money and operate. Right. So like that, they pass that along to you and me, the consumer, and people don't get that. So I went back and I was like, wow, living in California, what do we actually pay in taxes? And no joke, guys, it is 28% goes out the door for federal. Okay. And then another 9.3% for state taxes. And then they charge disability insurance here, and that's 1.2%. And then they tax you with a sales tax only on the state level is 7.25%. So all in out the door, a normal person, not a millionaire. This ain't a guy who owns Starbucks. He's paying 45.5% taxes out the door, and that does not
Almost
include
almost half of the money he makes is
right.
gone.
Half
Just
the money he makes or she makes goes out the door, and that does not include sales tax. I'm sorry, that does not include gasoline tax that you're paying, and that does not include things like property taxes. So think about that. Let that digest for a second. This state is broke, has no money,
mm-hmm.
and this is how much money they're
It's
taking out
a
of everybody's.
it's a complete train wreck.
Right.
It's not that it's
It's a
broken,
complete
it's out of
train.
money. It's a
Right.
complete shit show. There is a reason everybody rich and famous is fleeing California.
Right. Is because of that, and they wonder
Like,
why.
and
They're
it's
like,
well,
I
it's
don't
not
know why.
safe. It's not safe to live there anymore. California used to be this gorgeous place to live. It was safe. It was awesome. Now you've got homeless drug addicts all over the place. Which
And
I'm
no
not trying.
laws.
I'm trying to not like sound insensitive to the homeless population in California, but it's not safe. It's not safe for the kids to play outside. And
It's
if you have the money to relocate, why would you stay there? Especially when you have
correct.
states like Tennessee and Texas and Florida that have insanely friendly
Low
laws
Oh,
to,
yeah.
and not just low
For
taxes, but
businesses and for
business centered tax law
yeah.
versus business punishing tax law. I mean,
Right.
California's answer to people leaving isn't, maybe we're doing something wrong and we should fix that so people don't want to leave. It's no, we're going to tax you when you leave. If you're going to leave, we're going to fucking tax you. And it's like,
Yeah.
so wait,
Punitive tax for leaving.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure you can't do that.
Yeah,
That
that's a federal law. You cannot do that. Yeah.
that's interstate travel. The federal
Interstate
government's not going to
commerce.
be
Yeah.
happy with you taxing interstate commerce. I can tell
Oh
you that
no,
right
no,
now.
no. They will march on your position and kick your ass if you tell them no long enough. You will change that law. So, I mean, when you look at it in terms like that, it's actually kind of scary, guys. And this is not like, again, I picked 9.3% for the state tax. It varies, depends upon how much you make, but I picked that one's like $100,000 a year. I don't know how you live in the state if you don't make that. You know what I mean?
I don't know how you
Successfully and
live in
have
that
something,
with that much. I don't even know how you could live
you
in
know,
the state
right.
in certain areas.
Because you're only taking home. So I mean, guys, think about this. You go home and you tell your wife, "Hey, I'm making $100,000 a year," and at the end of the year, come December, you can only give her like what $55,000. You earned 100 grand, and you're like, I got 55,000 left over to live.
And it would be
You
different
know what
if
I
you
mean? And
it
that
would be
I mean
different
that's
if we all had fucking
insane.
automated cars and gorgeous parks and cleanness and
Right.
trash that picked itself up and little robots that drove around and made the street fixed all the potholes. What do you get
Right.
what do you get for those taxes in California? Nothing. You get
Nothing.
fucking nothing. You get some of the worst schools in the country. You get some of the highest crime rates in the country, and you get one of the most obnoxious fucking politicians you have to listen to on the news. That's what you get for your tax dollars.
And then they justify it. They justify it and they go, well, the homeless population is exploding. Right. Because you changed the law prohibiting the cops from being able to arrest them for things like public urination, public defecation, all that kind of stuff. In fact, there are shop owners in San Diego who have regulars, okay, like your normal regulars that come in every day they get a cheeseburger or something. These people are regulars for thieves. They every Monday they roll in and steal 3 bottles of liquor and there's nothing the cops can do. They know the same guy over and over and over again. So it's ridiculous. The cops can do nothing because their hands are tied because the local politicians who you don't want to hear their voices anymore have changed the laws to decriminalize that kind of behavior.
Right.
So what? The shop store owner has to include theft into his bottom line or her bottom line. They calculate how many bottles of liquor are going to get stolen, and then they hike the prices.
That's exactly
up
what
for
they do.
the wine and everything else.
That's why a lot of big box stores anymore. It's what big box stores do. You will get in trouble if you try to stop somebody from shoplifting.
Yeah.
You just let them go
Yeah.
because
You let 'em go.
that is calculated into their prices. They just accept
Yep.
it. It's not worth the risk of somebody getting hurt. And so
Right.
that's what happens when and on top of that, California has passed some really dumb fucking laws with rent control and stuff, which everybody's like, yeah, rent control. And what they don't realize is everywhere that has ever instituted rent control in the United States, all it has done is made rent more expensive. That's all it does because of the process of it. And it's like everything else the government does. When the government tries to do shit with a hammer, it just breaks everything. Because
Right.
you can't, it's like trying to push water. Market economies, the flow of money is like water. It takes the path of least resistance. So if you try to push on it, it's just going to flow around whatever you're doing and find another way to do it. So when you do things like rent control, all you do is make landlords they never repair their properties. They never repair them. Because why? Because you can't kick the people out and you can't charge them more. So you make life so fucking miserable on them that they just want to leave. But they don't leave because they don't have anywhere to go. And nobody wants to build. Nobody's going to build high density. California needs more high density. It needs more homes. It needs more high density homes, not giant fucking mansions. It needs apartment buildings.
Right.
The more supply
they
you
put a
stick in a
building
system, the cheaper the system gets. It's here in Bozeman. It blows my mind, dude, because they're finally building all these high density apartment buildings around town, and people are freaking out. Oh, these are hideous. Oh, these are ugly. And it's like, these are the same fucking people who complain about how expensive it is to live in Bozeman. The only way you're going to make it cheaper is by making more places to live. So shut the fuck up and quit bitching.
Even those, oh my God. I was looking at it this weekend or this week, with some of the guys in the office, and it was like, dude, a 2-2 in Bozeman right now is fetching like $500,000. Right around the two, like I'd say,
So
like 300,000 to 500,000.
COVID has had a huge effect on Bozeman. A lot of people are trying to move to this area, not necessarily Bozeman, Manhattan, surrounding, Livingston and Montana in general, and South Dakota and Wyoming and stuff have seen these huge increases in interest of people because they want to get the fuck out of the crazy places. And they want to get somewhere nice.
Politics there.
Yeah, they're not going to. Look at Arizona, dude. Yeah. Arizona went blue because everybody left fucking California and moved there, and they're going to bring their dumbass policies with them. So it's going to be a battle to fight.
You cross the state line, and gasoline drops off $1.50 per gallon. Taxes go down. You don't have anyway. But so like, yeah, a part of like this whole thing too, and then kind of slowing us down. They shut off drilling in the Arctic. They put a moratorium of 6 months
On new
on any
drilling.
new fracking and new drilling on federal land,
Yep.
which you could argue that's a zero sum. I would have argued that that was a total negative, but it's not. It's just a zero sum right now. But why would you cap American petroleum? If you were to say we were the good guys, and we are, by way of comparison to a
Most
lot
everybody
of the
else.
world, um, the I mean, what we do with our money, okay, you could argue some of it's nefarious and some of it goes into pockets of, rich people, but or politicians. But at the end of the day, we do good things with our money. We when Europe when Europe has a hiccup in food supply, or when Russia has
The
a
most
hiccup,
generous
we give
country on
them
the
our
planet.
grain. Right?
The most generous
We
country
are.
on the
We
planet.
true.
Period.
Yep. And many people have said that. Like, you bomb the enemy with one hand and you feed them with the other, and not very many
Yeah,
countries do
combat
that. And then
engineers.
we
We
leave.
we go in and we blow all the fucking bridges up. The troops go through,
Yep.
and behind them is the combat engineers rebuilding all the shit we
Right.
blew up.
Rebuilding the whole thing. Right, and feeding the local population. So I'm not saying we haven't made any mistakes. America's made a lot of mistakes, but we move forward at a tremendous clip, and we usually rectify those mistakes very, very rapidly. But
Yeah, and we
when
usually hold the people accountable that make them.
right, yeah, you got to hold the people accountable. Right. So, but like when you look at in terms of this, like, yeah, these are the same guys who are screaming death to America and death to Israel. Like, why are we buying their product? And I kind of started thinking about it for a minute here. I was like, would you buy organic food from Clanmart, or would you buy an EV vehicle, or a PV cell or anything like that from I don't know, Adolf Tech? You know what I mean? Like, if you were to put the argument in any other form other than oil, it would be absurd. So like, why are we giving people who hate half the planet, if not more, than money to
We
do what
have
it is they want?
we have robbed some
It's
of the
absurd.
most awful regimes on the planet of their ability to make money. Russia, Venezuela, the Middle East have been absolutely hammered because the United States became energy independent under
Yep.
Trump,
Yep.
and now that's all under
Yep.
jeopardy. And last time we had to do this, I guess you could say coincidentally, Biden had a big part in it with the fucking 1973 oil embargo and what that did and what that caused and why we were so fucking dependent upon them and how bad
Yeah.
that really was. I mean, it's the
Yeah, it turned the U.S. and half of Europe into a recession
people have
overnight.
let their hatred for Trump put us in a position now where people who don't have our best interests at heart are making decisions. The only thing that they're making decisions on is how they keep power. They're going to try to end the filibuster so that they can make 2 more states so that they have complete control forever.
They have control now.
Everybody's leaning on Manchin to, as being the Democrat that can be. I don't know why more people aren't bringing up Tester's name. That sumbitch better not get too fucking lefty on us, because he's another one that people can put a lot of pressure on as a Democrat. For gun
You
laws
know,
and getting and the veto and all this other stuff.
you beat me to it. I was going to bring up the gun laws too, but you know what? And this is the power of the United States. When people are like, "Oh, it's over. Oh my God, everything's done." Blah blah blah. Everyone's freaking out. Look, at the end of the day, the United States is 50 independent states, and the federal government can only do what each state allows it to do. Okay, and you can argue that the Civil War said no, but under normal circumstances, minus an insurrection, the local and state governments run the country. And you got states like Montana right now saying, okay, it's okay to have a concealed weapon without a permit. Like, it just passed the House actually, like today or yesterday or something. Um, and like, I don't know what the article I read said, there was about 15, 16 other states that were doing the same thing. As long as you're within the state of Montana, and you're a resident of that state, you can carry a pistol and you don't have to have a CCW. I moved to Montana and I got a CCW permit.
It's handy because you
So
don't have
like,
to do the fucking. You don't have to wait on the phone call when you go buy a gun.
right,
It's
right,
and for vets, it's easy. In
right.
Montana, it's really easy to get one,
Yeah,
so it's
GD
great.
214, you walk in and go do it. So I mean, there are states who are changing, who are seeing the writing on the wall, and they're changing. And it's not just the northern states like Montana or whatever. There's quite a few of them. So there is that. They can dump their chest and do whatever they want, but at the end of the day, it's the local sheriff is the one that's going to arrest you for breaking the law, or the deputy or whoever. It's not
Mm-hmm.
Biden's administration who's going to come out and have you arrested.
Half of them wouldn't even
So
be able to find Montana if they wanted to, and I'm happy.
oh
I hope it
God,
stays
yeah,
that way.
yeah. There's quite a few. We've seen it when we were getting quotes and stuff on for jobs and stuff. Is that in Canada? Like, no, it's in the US of A.
You know,
Like, where
kind
are
of
you educated?
kind of like what we want to do here, like we always do with the podcast. So I kind of we're going to change gears and talk about something positive, so we're not just sitting here
Yep.
crying and bitching and moaning and whining, which there's going to be a lot of that for the next 4 years, I suspect. But per the usual SpaceX fanboy that I am, it's actually kind of a cool week for SpaceX. Bunch of stuff actually happened this week. Hit the news with them. SN9, which is their, that their
Serial number
serial number
9.
9, but it's their Mars, spaceship
Starship.
Starship process. It's probably going to be ready to launch early this week, which that's super exciting. SN8 went up. It flew fantastically. It had a issue with fuel pressure, and it cratered and exploded and gave everybody a great show. And everybody was super happy because all the crazy hard shit that they weren't sure was actually going to work, that's never been tried, it all worked. It was just a small error that they were able to almost immediately rectify that caused it to crash. So SN9 might be the first one to actually land. We'll see. On
And I
top of
think
that,
if
some
you
other
would,
stuff that happened this week out there that was super cool, is they started seeing these refining machines that are out there, and they're kind of like air separators, if you will. And what it does is it just takes air and it pulls out argon and pure oxygen and stuff like that, for fuel. And I didn't know this till today either, but the site where the launch pad is actually at has gas wells on it, natural gas wells, and they use that to generate the rocket fuel. So now not only they're going to pull
that's so
the
cool.
rocket fuel gas out of the ground, refine it, and hard pipe it right to the rockets, which is insanely awesome because it's
Wait, are
so
you saying they're
efficient.
building a pipeline?
Yes.
Sorry.
But on top of that, they also bought 2 old offshore oil rigs. And everyone wasn't 100% sure that it was SpaceX that did it because of the companies that it was done through. And I'm talking like massive oil rigs, guys, like the huge things that float out into the ocean and drill fucking, tens of thousands of feet in the ground. SpaceX bought 2 of these things. That's not like going and buying a fucking boat. This is a fucking oil rig.
Yeah.
These things are tens of hundreds of millions of dollars. And they've been named Phobos and Deimos, which are the 2 moons of Mars. And what they're going to
That's
be is they're
awesome.
going to be the floating platform, the launch platforms for SpaceX, because that's SpaceX's plan is they're going to put these things out in the ocean and launch them from the ocean because there's some stuff with the closer you are to the equator, the easier it is to get into space. Is basically how it works. That's why everybody launches out of Florida. That's why he picked the southern tip. I mean, he's literally like a stone's throw from the Mexican border where the launch site is in Boca Chica. And that's why they do a lot of the testing down in the Kwajalein Atoll. The military does a lot of space missile testing down there because it's just easier to get into orbit from there. It takes less fuel.
It's a bigger circle and
You're spinning
less
faster.
you're spinning faster.
Orbit
You're
isn't
moving.
about vertical speed. It's about horizontal speed. You just go up to get out of the atmosphere, and then it's about getting going fast enough that you free
Yep.
fall around the planet. So
Yep.
on top of that, BN1, which is the booster number one, the big booster that's going to be underneath the Star. So the Starship is the second stage technically, and that's what they're testing right now. Underneath it is a even bigger booster that's going to push this thing up. It's about 80% manufactured. Like the parts are about 80% manufactured. Now it still has to go through assembly and testing and a bunch of other shit, but it's getting close to being able to be. Oops, sorry. It's getting close to being able to be launched too. So a lot of cool stuff down in Boca Chica right now. Starlink launched their 17th rocket. SpaceX launched Starlink 17, Mission 17, and did something. That rocket has done several things, set several records for SpaceX and the space industry as a whole. For one, they landed out in the ocean in high winds and high seas. Like when you see the video of the barge, dude, it looks like something out of fucking Deadliest Catch. Like there's white caps and waves and the wind's blowing around and that fucking rocket whoop, stuck the landing, dude, in high winds and high seas, which expands their capabilities because downrange landing is also part of when they launch or not. They've canceled launches because they weren't going to be able to recover the booster, or not canceled, but pushed them for the weather to get nicer. So
Scrubbed them. Scrubbed them.
the bigger that window gets, the more often they can do launches. On top of that, this rocket that launched this booster was the 8th time it's launched. It was its 8th landing, and its turnaround was only 38 days. It launched a Starlink mission on December 16th, and it launched again. Was it yet? I can't remember if it was yesterday or 2 days ago. But it was only a 38-day turnaround from when it landed and they got it back on a pad and took off was only 38 days. And the previous best to that was 50 days. So they're getting faster and
which is
faster and
still
faster and faster.
super rapid.
And
But even 50 days is super fast.
yeah, I mean, it's insane how, I mean, and the fact that it's been reused 8 times. It's not like it's like, oh, we got 1 or 2 uses out of it, kind of like if you used a styrofoam cup and after the third use, you're kind of like, yeah, this isn't really reusable, but we did. These things are legit being over and over and over again. And that's what's making Starlink so possible, which Starlink is the new internet satellite internet service that's going to be global.
Yeah.
Right now, it was only United States and I think Canada.
You can see him across the sky in Montana when the lightning's right. You can see it.
Now they're expanding into the UK. It sounds like they've gotten a lot of the regulation done, and they're getting ready for the UK. And so the little bit of distraction.
Very happy little girl there.
You can say hi.
Hi, John.
You can say hi to everybody.
Hey, sweetheart, how are you doing?
You can say hi to Aunt Claire.
No, she can't hear you.
What?
You want to say hi to Aunt Claire? She watches too. She'll watch eventually. Say hi to Aunt Claire and Uncle
Hi,
Fuzz.
Aunt Claire. Hi, Uncle Fuzz.
So Starlink, they're expanding to the UK, and eventually they're going to be all over the world. And what's really cool is right now they're talking about First Nations in really remote places. And First Nations, for people who don't know, is like Canada and Alaska. That's what they talk about, the indigenous tribes, if you will. They call them First Nations. So they're providing internet for these places that have never had access to high-speed internet before, if any internet at all, outside of like cell phone internet. And it's giving places like first responders, police stations, and firefighters technology and stuff they've never had before. And Starlink is doing all of this. So once you think about what this is going to do to the world and how it's going to change everything around the planet, it's insane, dude. I mean, you're gonna give unregulated internet to places like China or Saudi Arabia, and it will happen. They can try to control it all they want. People are gonna have the satellite internet, and it's gonna be absolutely amazing what this is gonna do for the planet as a whole, as far as making people freer and giving them access to information. And I mean, think about it. You're gonna be able to have kids in Harlem are gonna be able to telecom with kids in Nigeria and say hi and have conferences about their classrooms. You think about
like all the untapped, brain cells, for lack of a better word, all the untapped intelligence or talent that's in places like Central and South America, or Africa. Like you got incredibly smart people that just don't have the opportunity, don't have the access to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. I mean, tremendous opportunity for, I want to say, an untapped market of intelligence.
It is. I mean, that's what you can say that. I mean, if people get offended over them, fuck them.
I hope they don't get offended. I think it's badass, So, cool. I like it. I guess for that, we could probably end it here, huh?
Yeah,
Looks
we'll
like
wrap
you got
it
a
up.
couple of very excited little girls behind you.
I think dinner's ready. So, and I don't know how much more distraction I'm going to have going forward.
But guys, like and subscribe if you like what we're doing. We want to know it. Comment below.
Yeah, we're on we're on
Yep.
iTunes and Spotify. You can listen to us all over there now, which I think we actually get a lot more traffic there than we even do on YouTube. But we're going to try to step up the game here instead of just doing weekly podcasts and videos every now and again. Really start to crank out some videos and start to grow the channel and get you guys some more information. So thanks for the support, and we'll see you on the next ride.
Yep. As always, simplify.